All right, so get this. You guys sent us a draft of a paranormal romance novel. But here's the twist, it's AI generated. You're really diving deep into uncharted territory with this one, and I have to admit, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what we uncover. I mean, AI writing full-blown novels. That's not just your average email subject line, is it?
It really speaks to how quickly things are moving, doesn't it? I mean, we're going way beyond simple tasks now and stepping right into the world of creative expression.
Absolutely. So let's unpack this a little. The AI has it's put together this pretty classic paranormal romance setup. We've got Ember, she's a witch trying to escape a forced marriage. Elijah, a vampire, but he's seeking redemption. Raven, a half-fae, so she's torn between two worlds. And then there's Aiden. He's our vampire hunter with a mysterious past. Sounds like we've got all the ingredients for some serious sparks.
Right. Absolutely.
But I'm curious, what sets these characters apart from, the usual paranormal romance fare?
What's really interesting here is how the AI goes about tackling internal conflict. For example, take Ember. She's not just running away from a bad situation. She's wrestling with, well, with the expectations of her whole coven and what it means to be a powerful witch, in a world that fears her magic.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. So it's more than just that external conflict driving the story.
Exactly. And look at Elijah. He's carrying centuries of guilt, and this thirst for redemption. It goes way beyond that typical bad boy vampire trope we see so often.
Yeah.
Even Aiden, the vampire hunter, has his own internal struggles that he has to work through. There's a depth to these characters that goes beyond the surface.
So the AI seems to understand that conflict is more than just like good versus evil. It's those internal battles we all face, right?
Exactly. And that's where you can see that the AI is starting to grasp human psychology. It's not just mimicking, It's really exploring what makes a character tick.
That's fascinating. Now, this novel is set in an ancient forest. There's something called the Shadowlands, which already sounds ominous, and then a mysterious element called Heartwood. Without giving anything away, can you tell us how the AI uses the setting to build that tension?
What really stands out to me is how the AI uses this setting to sort of mirror what's going on inside the characters. This ancient forest with all its secrets and hidden dangers, it becomes a reflection of their own journeys.
So it's like the forest is a character in itself.
In a way, yes. The AI creates this really palpable atmosphere. And it's more than just a backdrop. For instance, there are these moments where Ember's fear is reflected in like the rustling leaves and the shadows that almost seem to be watching her.
Oh, okay, now I'm getting chills. That's really clever. So the AI can set the scene, create these complex characters, but can it actually write? I mean, what's the prose like?
That's where things get really interesting. This AI has clearly been trained on, well, a huge amount of text data. And it can mimic different writing styles, which is pretty amazing. There are passages, for example, where the descriptions are so vivid, almost poetic.
So it's not just churning out these robotic sentences.
No, not at all. There's a real flow to the writing, and you can tell that the AI is really trying to evoke specific emotions in the reader. Like, for example, during a fight scene, the language becomes very short, sharp, mimicking those quick movements and that rush of adrenaline.
Wow, that's impressive. But I'm curious about the technical side of things. How does an AI even learn to write like this? Is it just copying and pasting from other novels?
Oh, it's way more complex than that. This AI uses something called natural language processing, or NLP for short, and it allows it to analyze and understand human language. It's been fed this massive data set of text, even code, and from that it learns patterns, grammar, even storytelling structures.
So it's like it went to a writer's boot camp, absorbing all that knowledge.
You could say that. But the key difference here is that the AI processes and analyzes information at a speed. Well, at a speed that humans just can't match. It's constantly learning, refining those skills, experimenting with different styles.
Okay, yeah, that's starting to make sense. But let's get back to the novel itself. We've talked about setting, characters, but how does the AI handle the romance part?
Well, what's intriguing is that the AI seems to get how important tension and buildup are in romantic relationships. It doesn't just jump into like passionate declarations right away. It slowly develops the relationships, lets the characters connect emotionally first.
Oh, so it's more about the slow burn than instant firework.
Exactly. Take Ember and Elijah's relationship, for instance. At first, there's distrust, even fear. But there's this simmering attraction that slowly builds over time. The AI doesn't shy away from the complexities of their dynamic, showing both the push and pull of their connection.
That's pretty refreshing, actually. It's different from that insta-love that you see so often in this genre. So the AI understands tension, knows how to set a scene, can even mimic different writing styles, but Does it have any weaknesses?
One limitation we see in this draft is this tendency towards repetition. There are certain descriptions, particularly of the forest, that pop up almost verbatim throughout the story.
So it's like the AI got stuck on repeat, playing its favorite hits over and over?
You could say that. It's likely because of how the AI relies on recognizing patterns. It's learned that certain phrases work well in one context and then overuses them.
That makes sense. I mean, it's still learning, refining its abilities, right? But does this repetition take away from the reading experience?
It can, yeah, especially if you're looking for a truly unique story. But I think it's important to keep in mind that this is still very early on in the development of AI storytelling. It's like watching a child learn to walk. There are going to be stumbles and falls, but with practice, with guidance, the AI can learn to overcome these.
So it's all about potential at this point, seeing where the AI can go from here.
Absolutely. This draft gives us a glimpse into what the future of storytelling could look like, a future where AI becomes a powerful tool for us. But it also brings up some important questions about, the nature of art, what's truly original, and what it even means to be a storyteller when machines can do this.
And those are questions we're going to continue exploring as we dive deeper into this AI-generated novel. So let's move on to the plot itself. What kind of story has this AI cooked up?
Well, there's this ancient prophecy, a mysterious artifact hidden somewhere in the forest. And there's this conflict brewing between the supernatural factions in this world.
Okay, sounds like we're in for a wild ride.
Welcome back to our deep dive into, AI-generated paranormal romance.
We're picking up right where we left off, with our witch, our vampire, the half-fae, and don't forget the vampire hunter, all tangled up in this ancient prophecy, and they're heading towards this mysterious location called Heartwood.
Right, and we already talked about how this AI storyteller is pretty good at those classic tropes and giving us some really vivid descriptions. But how does it actually bring all those elements together into an actual plot?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I'm curious to see if the AI can handle things like pacing and those big plot twists that keep you hooked.
Well, one thing that really surprised me was how the AI flipped things around. Remember how we were talking about Elijah and his whole redemption arc?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out his past is directly tied to the ancient curse that's plaguing, the whole land. He's not just looking for forgiveness. He's actually trying to undo a huge mistake.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's more to his backstory than we thought. I like where this is going.
Yeah, it really adds a whole other layer to his character. And it definitely raises the stakes. He's not just some, brooding vampire with a tragic past.
Right.
He's the one who caused the conflict that drives the story.
That's really clever, the way the AI ties the characters into the bigger picture. But what about Heartwood? We know it's this mysterious place, but what is its role in the plot?
Well, the AI reveals that Heartwood isn't just a place. It's like this source of ancient magic. It holds the key to breaking the curse. But of course, there's some obstacles.
Right, there always are.
Exactly. So the AI introduces this rival coven of witches. They also want the power of Heartwood, but for, let's just say less noble reasons.
Okay, so they're the antagonists.
You could say that. But the AI does something interesting. It gives them a really compelling motivation. They believe they're the rightful guardians of Heartwood, you see. And they see Ember and her allies as these intruders.
Oh, so it's not just a clear-cut good versus evil situation.
Right. It's not so simple. It brings in this moral gray area. And you start to question who the real bad guys are.
That's a lot more nuanced than I expected. So how does this conflict actually play out?
Well, this is where Raven's ability to talk to spirits comes in handy. The AI uses her unique skill to introduce a hidden path to Heartwood. It gives our heroes a bit of an advantage over the rival coven.
So we've got this race against time, hidden paths, ancient magic. Sounds pretty exciting.
It is. And the AI doesn't shy away from those moments of suspense and danger either. There are a lot of close calls, betrayals, even sacrifices that really test the character's loyalties.
Okay, now you've really got me hooked. Does Ember reach Heartwood? Can she break the curse? No spoilers, of course.
I won't spoil the ending, but I will say the AI wraps things up in a way that's both satisfying and makes you think. It ties all those plot threads and character arcs together really well.
That's good to hear. I hate it when a story just fizzles out at the end. But let's talk about the AI's writing style for a second. We talked about its strengths, but are there any areas where it stumbles?
One thing I found a bit off was the dialogue. The AI can structure sentences correctly, grammar is good, but sometimes the conversations just sound stiff and unnatural.
So it's like the AI hasn't quite figured out how to make characters sound like real people talking.
Yeah, exactly. The rhythm and flow of how we talk are really complex. There are all these nuances like sarcasm, humor, the things we don't actually say.
Mm,
The AI hasn't mastered those yet.
that makes sense. It's a whole different ballgame to go from writing grammatically correct sentences to capturing how we actually interact. But were there any examples where the AI's dialogue worked well?
There were a few moments, especially in the banter between Raven and Aiden, where the AI managed to create a spark, some genuine wit and chemistry. It seems like the AI does better with those lighthearted exchanges, rather than the really emotionally charged conversations.
So maybe it's better at that surface level communication, not so much the deeper emotional stuff.
Maybe. It's like it's still learning how to read between the lines, to understand those unspoken messages we convey with our tone or body language.
Right, all those things we don't say out loud. Well, that's a pretty complex skill for a machine to learn. But let's move on to another important aspect of the novel, the romance. Does the AI deliver those swoon-worthy moments? The ones that romance readers are looking for.
Yes and no. It definitely understands that physical attraction is important in romance, and it doesn't shy away from those intimate scenes, but it sometimes struggles to bring in that real emotional depth.
So it knows how to write the scene, but it doesn't quite feel genuine.
Exactly. It can describe the physical sensations, but it misses that emotional vulnerability, that connection that makes a romantic scene really resonate with readers.
It's fascinating. It seems like the AI still has a lot to learn about human relationships.
And that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting. We're not just looking at a finished product here. We're seeing this new kind of storyteller evolve right in front of us. The AI is learning, adapting, pushing the boundaries.
It's both exciting and a little scary, isn't it, to think that machines might one day rival us in creativity?
It definitely makes us question our assumptions about what it means to be creative. But let's focus on what this AI has actually done. It's written a paranormal romance novel with a compelling plot, complex characters, moments of humor and suspense.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. But I'm still curious about the bigger picture. What does all of this mean? Where do we go from here?
Those are the questions we're going to tackle in the last part of our deep dive. We'll look at the ethical concerns, how this might impact human authors, and the future of storytelling in a world where AI is becoming, well, increasingly powerful.
Sounds like we have a lot to unpack. We've spent the last two parts of this deep dive really getting into the nitty-gritty of this AI-generated paranormal romance novel. We talked plot, characters, even those steamy scenes. But now I want to kind of zoom out, look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, time to talk about the elephant in the room, right? What does
Ah.
it all mean? We've got AI writing novels that are honestly pretty good. Does this change everything?
Exactly. Are we heading into some sci-fi movie scenario where robots are taking over the arts? Or is it more complicated than that?
It's definitely more complicated. One of the biggest worries I hear is about human authors, becoming obsolete. Like,
Right.
will AI steal our jobs, make storytelling something only algorithms can do?
And what about the readers? Will they even want to read stories if they know there's no human touch?
Those are all valid questions.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that AI, at least right now, is a tool. A very powerful tool, sure,
Yeah.
but still a tool that humans are using.
So instead of replacing authors, maybe AI could become more like a partner.
Exactly. Imagine a writer dealing with writer's block, right? They could use AI to brainstorm ideas or help flesh out a scene, or editors could use AI to make the editing process smoother, catching those inconsistencies, maybe even suggesting different ways to improve the writing.
Okay, yeah, that sounds a lot less scary. But what about plagiarism? If AI is learning from existing books and stories, how do we know it's not just copying?
That's a huge issue, ethically. We're already seeing cases where AI-generated content is setting off those plagiarism alarms. It's something developers are working on, but it's a tough problem to solve.
It seems like the law is going to have to play catch up with all this AI stuff. We're in uncharted territory here. But let's go back to the reader for a second. Will people actually want to read these stories if they know a machine wrote them?
I think it really depends on the reader and the story itself. Some people might be drawn to the novelty of it all. Others might prefer that connection to a human author. But in the end, it's the story that really matters, right? Not who or what wrote it.
That's a good point. But I wonder if AI could actually offer something unique to the whole reading experience, something that human authors just can't do.
That's where things get really interesting. Imagine an AI that could create a story just for you, tailored to your interests. Want a paranormal romance set in Victorian London with a vampire who's secretly a pastry chef? AI could do that.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. That level of personalization would be amazing.
And think about education. AI could create stories that actually adapt to how much the reader understands. Giving explanations or more information as needed, it could totally change how we learn.
Wow, yeah, the possibilities are huge. But let's bring it back to this paranormal romance novel. What does it tell us about where AI storytelling is right now?
Well, this draft shows us that AI has come a long way in understanding and mimicking us. It can come up with a good plot, create characters with depth, even capture the feeling of different writing styles, but it's not perfect. There are still things it struggles with, especially dialogue and those deeper emotions.
So it's like a talented apprentice still learning the ropes.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting to watch. We're
Yeah.
seeing this new kind of storyteller being born, one that will keep evolving and surprising us.
I'm excited and a little terrified, to be honest, to see where this all goes. But I think it's so important to be having these conversations now before AI gets so advanced that we can't keep up.
Absolutely. We need to be thinking about the ethics, the legal stuff, and how it impacts human creativity. This isn't just about technology. It's about the future of storytelling itself.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they, navigate this whole new world of AI storytelling?
Stay curious. Explore what's possible. Don't be afraid to experiment with these new tools and see where they take you. But also, be critical. Ask those tough questions. Demand transparency. And remember that AI at its core is a reflection of us. It's up to us to shape how it develops and make sure it's used to make our shared human experience better, not worse.
I think that's a great note to end on. This has been a fascinating deep dive. And yeah, a little mind boggling at times. Who knows what the next chapter holds? But one thing's for sure, we'll be here to explore it with you.